Hello, everybody. Welcome to our final session of our first day of UCGIS week. If you were here this morning, you will see a familiar face in Clancy McConnell. And Clancy and his team are going to do a workshop session for us on the California Tree Species Range Atlas. I'm really excited for this. We got a sneak peek of it this morning in the presentation. And Clancy, take it away.
Thank you, Maggie. I know it's like end of the day, people are getting tired. I have a little treat. So this is one of our lab mascots here, my dog Opie. So anyway, his face is getting blurred out, but that's your reward for coming to the range map workshop at 4 p.m. Anyway, yeah, there's another one around here somewhere, but she's hiding. So, welcome to the workshop. It's going to be a little bit of a follow along. Like our presentation this morning, it's a round two. The last year we presented the methods for building this range map atlas. We're not done yet, but last year we gave you an idea of the nitty-gritty of building all these maps. This time I'm going to show you how we're deploying those maps in a website, ArcGIS Online, and ArcGIS Field Maps. There are some other ways that we're using the maps as well in research. We'll get in a little bit of an intro to that in a few minutes. And my colleague Jason, who has built our website and really helped deploy all of these data out, will be joining us as well, and he'll give you a tour of the website itself. So now, without further ado, I will give you a little background on, there we go, looks like I'm screen sharing, on kind of what this is all about. So before we start, as I'm talking, I totally don't mind. Actually be helpful for the last 15 minutes to talk. If you want to follow along, go to your phone, go to the Play Store, the Apple Store, download ArcGIS Field Maps. This is if you have an institutional login, like a UC login. Download ArcGIS Field Maps. Log in if you can. If you can't, that's okay. I'll show you how later. Open ArcGIS Pro. You don't have to do any of this. You can just watch if you want. Open ArcGIS Pro and make sure you're logged in. And then also log into ArcGIS Online. So those are your three homework tasks because I'm kind of giving you some background on this. We built these range maps for all 100-ish California native tree species, starting with the Griffin and Critchfield map series. And this was state of the art 50 years ago, and it's actually still being used as sort of the go-to source for range maps in the state of California. In fact, there was a book that was just published this year, can't remember the name of it. It just came out a couple months ago that still is using the Griffin and Critchfield maps as the range maps for tree species. But we've come up with better range maps. So we scanned, georeferenced, and digitized this. And actually, our amazing team of undergraduates did most of that work. This is an old slide. We've since collected more data. We've compiled millions, over 6 million records beyond just the Griffin and Critchfield map. So it's the largest largest data set of tree species distribution ever compiled in the state of California. We have a lot of amazing partners. We actually have over 100 collaborators between agencies and private research individuals that have contributed to this. So it's a big, big effort. Just as compiled point data, that gives you an idea for one tree species alone, how much data goes into this. These are just points. We also have polygons. We have the Griffin and Critchfield. We have another medium scale vegetation map. There's a lot that goes into it. We merge all of that together in our project's grid format. In our case, that's 90-meter cells because it aligns with our climate data, which we have a whole bunch of other research going on. Merge all that data together and clip it out. Actually, today, right now in the lab, we have two awesome undergraduate analysts working on these maps using this exact process. So this is literally live. We're making this live. These new maps are a lot better than what existed before. You know, old range maps shown on the left, the kind of dark gray. So there's a light gray that's the state of California, the dark gray being the old range map for Redwood, and then the black being the new range map that we made. So the dark gray does kind of a good job of showing you where you might find redwood, but the outline in black says, no, this is actually where we have actual fine scale vegetation mapping or points or plots of redwood. So it does a much better job of telling you where there actually is a tree rather than where there might be a tree. So what are some uses of this? You think, well, it's nice to just make a map, but every map has some purpose. These have a lot of purposes. And right here in the lab, we're using them to do climate exposure analysis over different time periods up to 2100 to inform reforestation strategies. The old map on the left, climate exposure, compared to the new map on the right, climate exposure, gives you an idea that just, because this is sampling 100,000 points out of this map, it really makes a big difference having a better map because that will affect the climate exposure and the distribution. There's a normal distribution of those values across space. So that affects the climate exposure, also affects the landscape genomics. We're partnering with a couple people to study redwood, scrub oak, some other species, and how their genetic variability across the range is tied to climate, different climate variables, perhaps hydrological variables, salinity, metals, that sort of thing. And we're able to do that now because we have a great range map and we have great climate data to go along with it. This was a starting slide for our talk this morning. We're using the range maps to inform reforestation through this big complex prioritization framework that's helping reforest California under climate adaptive strategies. Partnering with Cal Fire, they have this cool thing called the assessment of need, and that tells them how much they need to reforest every single seed zone elevation band in the state with each species. You can see on the right here, each species, um, how many bushels they have in the seed bank for that. Well, we're able to tell them exactly how much range is in every seed zone elevation band. They can come up with really much better metrics by seed zone elevation band if they have a really good range map, because they haven't had one yet. We're also informing cone collection on the ground, where people actually go collect it. And that's kind of the end of my intro. And let's see, is Jason here? Jason Whitney. You might have had trouble getting on the call. I know he was traveling. Well, that's okay. I can share with you the cone scouting tool range map. So this is where you can follow along just on your web browser, or uh, you can just watch if you like. Okay, looks like I'm screen sharing. So this morning you saw the range maps, and those form the basis of the risk maps. We gave you a tour of the risk maps. You can look at those, and if there's time later, we can go over questions because I know this morning in the presentation there weren't times for questions there. So on the range map page, Jason showed a little bit of this morning. Right now, I just have red fir, Abies magnifica, highlighted. You can search from the drop down here on the left. Right now, it's sorted by genus. We're not sure yet how we want to be able to group these species, and we might have other metrics, or sorry, other groupings in the future where you could say, look at all of the conifers, or look at all of the hardwoods, or look at all of the riparians, which don't necessarily neatly fit into genuses and that sort of thing. So we'll turn off red fir, turn on white fir. You can clear these, add an entire genus, clear all. Let's see, let's look at all the oaks. Everyone likes to look at oaks. California's famous for oaks. So here are the 10 oaks that we've finished so far. We have a few others we're working on. So you zoom in, it takes a second to load this. It's probably taking, we have this on uh, a basic server right now, so the website might be a little bit slow to load. And if you click on a spot on the map, it'll show you which 3 species can be found at that location. Super handy if you want to actually go find that location. Let's say you're an ecologist doing field work and you need to find places where all 3 species can be found. This is a really great resource for that. You want to find an exact vegetation type with, so you need to study black oak. and lower montane hardwood can use this to search for that, find directions to that location. And this also does give a link to the cast tool. We also have that linked in our risk maps, and the cast tool just is another reforestation tool. In the upper right, you can change the base map. It's very similar to ArcGIS or other GIS applications. So depending on what your use case is, maybe you need to know where there are protected lands, can use the hybrid National Geographic aerial imagery. Anyway, we're trying to, add new features. So if you see something on here that you'd like to suggest, please send it my way and we can try to add it. Are there any questions on the website?
Clancy, this is Amy, and I just have
Yeah.
a question of like, I'm trying to follow along, and there's a bit of a lag, but I'm
Yeah.
only seeing two species, I think, in my select a species. Is that maybe I'm not in the right space?
Oh, yes. So on the top, there are three tabs. There's an about, risk map, and range map. Go to the range map tab.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, the risk map tab only has two demo species right now. We're in the process of putting all of those through our triage workflow. So soon you'll see most of the species on risk map that are on the range map tab. Yeah, there's a little bit of a lag because right now, as we build the website, we don't have a server designed for large demo sessions like this. It will work. It'll eventually load. It's a little bit lagging right now. All right. Well, it's pretty straightforward. If there are no questions here, we can move on to where you can find the range maps elsewhere. All right. Well, the next thing that I'll show you is in ArcGIS Pro. So if you have ArcGIS Pro, I know some of you may not. Everyone in the UC has institutional access to ArcGIS Pro. You don't have to have institutional access though. If you have any access to ArcGIS Pro, you can find our range maps on there, and I'll show you. It's really easy. Right now, the range maps are not available for direct download. They're really just for view only. You can use them for navigating in the field, that sort of thing. But because we haven't yet published the data in a Dryad repository, that sort of thing, nothing is yet available for download. Okay, so now I'll share you my ArcGIS Pro. Okay, so pardon all of the junk I have going on over here. This was the section Jason is going to be presenting. So over on the catalog pane on the right, over here, there are four different tabs at the top. You'll see project, which is where almost all of the work is done in ArcGIS Pro and all the data. But there's another tab called portal. So if you click on the portal tab, there are a whole bunch of options here at the top. Some of you might use these quite a bit. If you have institutional data sets, they're sort of shared between many different users and you're all working on them at the same time. But many of you also, especially in Intro to GIS, like LDA 150 here at UC Davis or other similar courses at other UCs, you pull in data from the Living Atlas, which is pretty much ArcGIS Online's, portal with all the public data sets that you can use, some of which are downloadable, some of which you can edit, some of which are just view only. So let's go over to the cloud that's the most plain looking of these called ArcGIS Online. So it's just the cloud without any other symbols on it. And type in, let's see, Anyone want to suggest? Well, you know, actually, no, we don't have all the species yet up, so I'll just pick a species for us. So type in incense cedar. See if this will pull it up. Yep, here it is. All right, so all of our data sets are organized with the same naming scheme. So this Calicedrus decurrens incense cedar range raster K27, that's how you know it's ours. It's got the scientific name, Calicedrus decurrens, incense cedar, which is the common name. We have in there range raster. We've got two different types. We've got range raster and range vector. Raster is the one that you'll usually want to use because that's its native format is raster. And then it's also got the USDA plant code. So that's how you know that it's one of the range maps that we just built. And so you can drag and drop this right onto your map. And there it is. There's our range map in our 90-meter pixel format. Takes a second to load once it's on there. Unfortunately, you'll see if you go over to the contents pane on the left, you can't change the symbology of these layers. It's one of the downsides to the way that everything is set up in ArcGIS Online. If you're using a hosted feature layer or a hosted raster layer, tile layer, they're called, you can't change the symbology from someone else's layer. So that in that case, you would have to download the range maps, which will be coming in a few months, or go to our website where you can easily change the symbology and the transparency of the range maps to suit your use case. But if you just wanted the range map in this black and white format just for viewing purposes, you know, black is a great color to use on maps because you can use it with colorblind folks. It goes, you know, it has really nice contrast, so you can have a light colored base layer. So if you needed to display a single range, it's at least good for that. And it's good for comparing to other data sets. So that's how you would add a range map just right now on ArcGIS Pro to your project for, you know, viewing purposes or building a map layout, that kind of thing. Are there any questions on the ArcGIS Pro portion before we move on? Oh yeah, Nick.
Nick, you're muted. I do see, oh, you don't have a mic. I'll read
Okay.
Nick's question out loud from the chat. Nick says they see a quote tile layer and a quote tile package version in the search results. What is
Okay.
the difference between the two?
Yeah, good question. I don't fully understand the way that ArcGIS Online works with these packages. The tile layer is the one that I added. Um, I would recommend going with, you know, if you're going to use these maps in ArcGIS Online, you have really just the two options that I would recommend. The one that says tile layer or the one that says feature layer. Feature layer is the vectorized version of this raster range map. And you know, it's okay. You're going to see it has some like blurring and some of the like pixels get compressed in weird ways just because that's, you know, in the conversion of a really high resolution data set like this, you'll get kind of weird issues. So between the two, I would recommend the tile layer over the feature layer, but you can use either one of those. And if you want a list of which species we have published in ArcGIS Online, you can reference that from our website, from the cone scouting tool, which I realized I should put in the chat for you. You can also just search for it by typing in the cone scouting tool and it will come up. Okay, in the interest of time, I think we should move on. Okay, let's see what we're going to do. ArcGIS Online next. And don't worry, because this is recorded, you can come back and follow along later if you get a little bit behind. So if you want to, and I'm going to set you up with ArcGIS Online because, well, some of you make story maps, first of all, and you can use hosted feature layers from elsewhere if you're making a story map or maybe you're working on a group class project or something like that, you want to use a range map, this will help you with that. But more importantly, doing this is going to set you up to use our range maps in the field on field maps. So if you want to use our range maps on your phone, you'll have to understand this next step. So you go to ArcGIS Online, you're signed in. You'll go to the Map tab on the top. And once you've opened a map like this, it's really simple. You just click the Add button to add a layer. And this next step is important. Before you search for something, you have to click right here at the top. Its default is My Content. You want to go down to ArcGIS Online. So very similar to ArcGIS Pro, you need to make sure you're searching in the right place for the data that you want. So make sure it's set to ArcGIS Online. And let's type that same one in Cedar. Oh, and there it is, Incense Cedar. This one says range vector. That's not the one we want. We want, scroll down, see if we can find it. Well, that's okay. We can add it. We can add it here. Doesn't make a big difference. Might take a second to load. There we go. Well, there's the raster version is down here, the tile layer. So I've added the tile layer to the map. There it is. Now let's say you want to view this on your phone. Next, it's just super simple. You have to go over to Save. The Save button is on the left. It does not look like a Save button. So it's all the way on the left. There's a vertical menu bar. You go down to the one that says Save and Open. So you'll click Save As. And then you have to add a title to it. Oh, we'll just call this. Let's just add a title to it. Save. And once this is saved, you can come back to this map anytime. You can add as many as you want. Remember, you can't change the symbology of the maps on here. So you can add a whole bunch of maps, but when you open it in ArcGIS Online or on your phone, you just have the one black color for now. So now that we're done with this section on ArcGIS Online, we're going to pivot. So hopefully those of you who want to follow all the way along and through have downloaded field maps on your phone. Are there any questions on this portion before we go to field maps? All right, good. Okay, so just to clarify, now we're done with the computer. Hopefully you've got your phone ready and in front of you. And don't worry, I've taken screenshots already. We're ready to go. So when you open field maps, you got to sign in. And it's very similar to signing into ArcGIS elsewhere with the UC. You do your Kerberos login, type in the name of your institution, and then you're logged in. So I'll give you a second just to do that because there's not a whole lot again once you've opened it. All right, so once you've logged in and you've made and saved a map from ArcGIS Online, you're going to see this screen when you open up. It's not going to look exactly like this. It depends on which maps you've made in ArcGIS Online, if any. I've made a whole bunch. Obviously, these were some of my testing maps, symbolizing things in different ways. But here's the current map that I made. I favorited this so it pops up at the top. And this is one I made yesterday. So you'll see that pop up only once you've saved your map in ArcGIS Online. And in order for it to show up, usually you'll have to save your map. You'll have to open field maps after you've saved the map in ArcGIS Online. If it doesn't show up, just close the app and reopen it because it takes a second to refresh. So once you've done that, tap on that map at the top, and then it will open up that range map in its entirety, filling most of the screen. And field maps is designed primarily for data collection. There's this uh, map functionality called markup. So it's kind of like, ArcGIS has, not ArcGIS, sorry, Esri has a number of different data collection products for smartphone use. And the primary one is called Survey 123, which is very, very, very bad at visualizing information. It's just terrible. But it's really good at collecting lots of attributes about a thing that you see in the field. Field maps is more for visualizing data and navigating in the field, and it's not so good at collecting data compared to Survey 123. So that's just the way that Esri has developed it. Survey 123 is for really good for high precision, lots of attribute data collection, and field maps is more for navigating, and you can still collect data with it. So you can zoom in and out on the map. I encourage you to explore and kind of figure out how field maps works, because if you go do field research, more and more ecologists and geographers are using apps like this out in the field instead of tablets or data collection. It can all be done on the smartphone. You can change the base map, visualize things in different ways, measure. This one has personal markup. There are ways that you can change markup and which fields that you want available. You can actually also find maps on ArcGIS Online, existing maps that people have already set up the data collection fields. So like you can type in tree data collection into ArcGIS Online and search for maps that people have made. And there's a template that they've already built for collecting tree height, the species, diameter, breast height, that sort of thing. And once you've saved a copy of that map to your profile and you can open it in ArcGIS, it's got all of those attributes that you can collect in the field very easily instead of having to set up your own system if you just kind of want to experiment. But you can add any layers you want, like our species range map. So let's say you want to contribute to this range map atlas project, which we encourage. You could go and add something like Valley Oak and put that map in there in that tree location map and go collect data out in the field to see where the map shows it is. And then if you find new specimens in the native range, send them our way. I think I have a few more things on here. Yeah, the way that you can turn layers on and off is in this little symbol at the top that I've circled in red there. That's pretty much opens the contents. And you know, it's kind of rough. It's got a lot of functionality in the phone. If you want to reorder the layers, you have to do that in the ArcGIS Online map first, and then open it on the phone, and that will reorder your layers. You can't reorder them on the app. This personal markup just has real basic functionality, but you can do more by learning more about the ArcGIS field maps markup from, a tutorial page, something like that. All right. Any questions there?
We have a question in the chat from Mike Mahoney asking, how will you be updating these range maps with new observations over time?
Yes. Yes, excellent question. We are getting new data all the time. It's pretty much every few weeks now that new data rolls in. It depends a little bit on the context. Right now, as we're still building the atlas, the goal is before we update maps, the goal is to get the atlas finished. Then, once it's finished, there will be a plan for, are we doing annual updates? Are they going to be every other year, every 5 years? How often are we going to do this? It isn't that difficult to update one map with one or two or three, or with a few data sources. But to systematically update all of the range maps in the collection with a large data source is kind of difficult. We have a system, once we've merged all these data sets together, they get combined into tables and then sorted, and we search them in Python, and then that gets split out by species. It gets quite complicated. And if we have to do that for every data set that comes in, it becomes a bit of a chore. So to answer the long answer to your question, likely our long-term solution is going to be setting up a system, a partnership with one of the state agencies that has long-term funding to host the atlas and also provide support for us to vet the data sources as they come in, make sure that they follow, that they're appropriate standards. And then once we view the data, it's a very long process to view the data as it comes in ArcGIS and make sure it's all corroborated, it fits within the range as we know it. So that we'll set up a system for us to vet that data and then probably do periodic updates. I don't yet know how often that will be, but it will be at a rate where, I mean, these maps are going to be the best that have been made for California tree species. So it'll be a good product to start with. But as they're updated, I would say, every few years would probably be reasonable to expect updates for at least the major species, the common and dominant, and especially the timberland species.
Thanks for that, Clancy. And I want to note we are coming up on time as well, if you would like to wrap up soon.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have more content, so it's really just up to if anyone has questions or anything like that. I'm here. I'm happy to help point you in the right direction. We love collaborating with folks. We have a lot of people collaborating on research projects, applied forestry, that sort of thing. We've gotten a lot of our best data from one-off sources. So, in fact, actually just today I got an email about, let's see, it's in the Dateline UC Davis about Hugh Safford's hunt for these Jeffrey pines at, some of the highest peaks in the state. We've got that data set. It's in our range map atlas. It's on our website. So
That's really fantastic to hear. And that's the type of community engagement that we're hoping to help support through events like UCGIS Week. So it's always great to hear about things like that. And I do want to note that we are about at time. I believe, Clancy, your email contact is also available if
yep.
folks would like to reach out to you directly. I want to say thank you for taking the time to put this together and share it with us. I know I found it quite easy to follow, which is certainly not the case for many workshops. I can certainly think of ways to utilize it as well. And thank you again. This is our last session of day one of UCGIS Week. Please check out our schedule and join us both tomorrow and Thursday if you're available for some more excellent GIS presentations, lightning talks, and workshops.
Thank you for hosting, Maggie, and thanks everyone for showing up.